Hello, my friends. Today we're going to be talking about how to really let go permanently of anxiety. So we're going to be addressing the emotional root of this challenging condition or mental health issue, not just finding a way to cope with it for a day or an afternoon, but really understanding what it is and what it needs from us to relax and let go and integrate so we can live a life free of anxiety, because so many of us have and are living lives where we're anxious every single day. It's one of the main maladies of modern life. And so this is why this is a really important video. I'm going to talk a little bit about what anxiety is and then get into some really practical steps to help you work through it. So people talk about anxiety in this very absolutist, sort of totalizing way. It's like, I am anxious, I have anxiety, as if it's like I have an arm. It's just something that we just have. It just kind of arises for no reason, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's no sort of cure. You just have to cope with it as best you can. And it's very understandable, but it's simply not true. There's a helpful sort of reframe here. You weren't born anxious. You don't come out of the womb to sort of, worried about, what to say at parties. It's something that you develop. It's actually a survival adaptation of your nervous system. And what can be helpful is to stop talking about it as if it's this absolute thing, like, rain or sunshine that just happens because that's how the universe works. It's more like a part of you, not all of you, just a part of you has been conditioned to be anxious as a way of trying to get your emotional needs met. And that if you can learn to meet those emotional needs and find out what those wounds are, then you can start to relate to it in a different way and help it to actually relax, right? So a quick note on what doesn't work with anxiety. Many of us, we try to relax or soothe ourselves with anxiety or convince ourselves, there's no reason to be anxious. We're anxious about our family visiting this weekend. We might try and tell ourselves, it'll be fine. No need to worry. Or our friends might do that. But it doesn't work. Your nervous system really does not give a crap about what may or may not happen this weekend. It feels unsafe, and so anxiety is going to come up to try to help you with that. Similarly, it's a really powerful nervous system response. You may have noticed there's a lot of juice behind anxiety. You can really feel it. And that energy needs to come up and through more than it needs to be pushed back down. And when we're trying to relax, we might go to the sauna or, just chill out or, smoke some weed with friends or whatever it is. But that's just suppressing the symptoms temporarily. Just you wake up the next day and then bam, the anxiety will be right back. So this is why we need to talk about what it really is, because people rarely stop to think, I'm anxious, but what is anxiety? So to answer that question, it is a survival adaptation. And it comes from, you set the imprint or the template for this early in life when there's ruptures with your relationships, with your family, with your tribe, your caregivers. So it's essentially your emotional needs aren't being met by the people around you, or there's a threat that you're going to be disconnected from them. So let me give you some examples. Maybe your parents are sort of ignoring you. They're kind of busy. They're not really paying you attention. As a child, that feels really, really unsafe. That's really threatening, because you need to be connected to them at all times to feel safe and loved and held and like secure. And so when they're ignoring, anxiety comes in as like a signal to your nervous system, like, hey, there's a threat of disconnection here. We need to mobilize you to do something. So that kid might start, you might start making a bit of a ruckus, making some noise, trying to draw attention to yourself. Or maybe you might start acting out, throwing a bit of a tantrum. These are sort of, either way, you're anxious to get the attention and approval, or just any kind of attention in this case, of your caregivers, and that anxiety is helping you with that. Take another example from slightly later in life. Maybe you've got some exams, you're at school. I remember this one. You're at school, you've got exams, and you're really anxious about them. Why? It's not about the exams. It's about the fact that your parents will There's a threat that they'll sever the connection of love and approval and safety in holding with you if you don't do well at the exams. If they've said, oh, it's really important that you do these exams well, it feels really threatening to your relationship with them on a very unconscious level. You won't be thinking this in your head. You won't know it's happening, but that's really what's happening if you don't do well. So you get anxious about the exams, right? And that's a signal to you of like, I need to pay attention. I need to do well here. I need to get my act together. And if I do well, then I get the love and approval. I'm held, I'm secure, I'm safe. There's another function it has, which is as a protection against really raw, painful and overwhelming emotions. And this is kind of related to the first one as well, because if you're feeling abandoned by your parents, there can be huge amounts of energy, like helplessness, fear that starts to come up. And as a child, that's so overwhelming, your nervous system can't handle it. And so you have to learn to push those down and protect yourself from them. And anxiety is a way you do that. That's kind of what that tension is. With anxiety, there's a lot of muscular tension. That's partly a readiness to go and act, but it's also partly like a kind of a way of holding in or holding at bay those really painful, difficult emotions. So this is why I discover with clients, oftentimes underneath the anxiety, there's a lot of fear or anger or helplessness or huge, powerful energies that have been repressed to keep you safe. So yeah, actually, I'll give you an example here. So you might be anxious around your parents. Maybe you feel anxious about saying no to them. They want you to do something and it feels like you have to go along with it. You're anxious about that. You're anxious about maybe telling them how you really feel about something, because that no in you is kind of like the flavor of that's the anger you have within yourself. Anger not as violence, but as life force, as your sense of self and boundariedness and assertiveness in the world. Okay, hey, I don't want to do that, parents, actually. Thank you very much. No. But if they don't like that, you're going to have to suppress that anger and get very anxious about how you're relating to your parents. And the function in that situation is to keep that anger suppressed, to keep your no suppressed. And so here you can feel into what anxiety really is. It's this like tension between this need for connection and love and approval, safety, being held, and a part of you that feels like it threatens that, right? That you then need to suppress. So this is why, exactly in that same example, you want to stay connected to your parents, and you have to suppress that part of you that says no to them because it's threatening. And anxiety comes in to help you suppress your no and to maintain that connection with them, right? So it's kind of a coping mechanism at the physiological level to stay away from that threat of disconnection and to deal with these really overwhelming feelings of fear, anger, hopelessness, and so on. So anxiety is never about the thing in front of you. It's never about the exam. It's never about the, meeting these people this weekend. It's never about the people at the party you're anxious about. It's always a much older thing that is to do, it's like an echo of a disconnect from your caregivers, from your parents, from your tribe, right? And it's about the emotions, the painful feelings that are associated with those ancient wounds, the helplessness, the abandonment, and so on, those unmet emotional needs that you carry from childhood. And those needs, those sort of wounds just intensify as you go through life, as you have repeated experiences of not quite being met or held. And also, as when you feel anxious in different situations and you don't listen to that signal and go deeper into it, you just resist it, or you try and deal with it superficially by working really hard at your exams, or trying to become really charismatic so you don't feel anxious at parties, or whatever it is. It's a kind of resistance to that anxiety, the actual experience of it. You're trying to fix it without meeting it or listening to what it's trying to say. And then it just builds up, it just loops and loops and loops. Each time you feel that anxiety, you push it back down, try and fix it, and then it comes up stronger the next time. And that's how later in life you feel more and more anxious over time until you hit like your mid-30s, your mid-40s, and you're sort of, you're like, how the hell did I get here? I'm this quivering wreck of anxiety. It's just been building more and more over time since those early imprints, emotional imprints and wounds were established in your first few years. So what does work? Well, you need to go beyond the superficial, what your mind is telling you the problem is. You need to explore more deeply. Anxiety is held in the body, and that's where we need to address this. That's where those difficult emotions live, those powerful nervous system responses. That's also why you feel anxiety in your body. You can feel that mixture of that mobilization of wanting, that urgency of needing to move and act and fix and change, combined with that like almost frozen feeling of feeling stuck, like you don't know what to do. This is that unique sort of flavor of anxiety, and the mobilization is trying to, do what you can to make sure your needs are met, and that kind of more freeze or stuckness is trying to protect you from the difficult emotions and experiences that are connected to it. So it's trying to do both at the same time, and it ends up doing neither particularly well. So we need to really explore with curiosity and compassion. This anxiety is trying to help you, and it's a signal, it's waving a flag that's like something isn't being met here. I need something. And when we bring that shift, we're not trying to get rid of it. We're not trying to push it away, fix it. We're trying to bring it more closely in. We're trying to welcome it in to get to know it. Like if you had a really anxious child knock on your door, you wouldn't just say, hey, no, go away, come back when you're feeling better. That would just make the kid even more anxious. And that's the same what happens if we reject our anxiety, try to push it away. It just gets more anxious. If you say to that anxious child, hey, come in. It's okay. Tell me what's going on. What do you need? You can feel that child start to relax. And it's the same with this anxious part of you. So here's a few steps. Firstly, you want to resource yourself. I have a whole video on resourcing. Just type resourcing into my channel and you'll find it. This is creating islands of safety in your experience. So you need to be able to safely connect to your physical experience, your bodily experience. You can do this, some people might be able to jump into this straight away. Other people might need to build this capacity over time. But you can do all kinds of simple things like just feeling your feet on the floor, or bringing your hands to your belly, your heart and your belly. Sighing, breathing more slowly, and just noticing those sensations. Noticing how it feels to give yourself a bit of a hug, a bit of a holding. You can sort of stroke your arms and just breathe slowly. You can imagine a safe place, a place that you like. And then just notice how it feels. You imagine yourself on a beach for a few minutes and then notice, how does your body feel now? And this is a way you can start to connect to your physical experience in a way that feels safe, because that anxiety feels quite unsafe. That's why it's stuck in the first place. Now, there's a lot more to say about this topic. So again, check out my resourcing video for more info on that. The next step 2, is to get curious about it and start to inquire into it, understand. So it's like, where am I feeling this anxiety? Is it in the chest? Is it in the belly? Is it in the shoulders? Does it have a particular shape? Does it have a particular color? Like how is it manifesting in your experience? You want to get really granular and actually see how it's manifesting. Maybe you'll notice some of the thoughts that come with it. Maybe there's an image of your boss. You're worried about a presentation. There's this strong image of your boss and there's this clench in the stomach, right? Or maybe there's a little movie playing out in your head about what you fear is going to happen when your family come to visit this weekend. And there's, a sort of a tightness in your chest. And noticing that the anxiety itself is not this monolithic thing. It's always just a combination of image and sensation. That's all that's ever here. Different images in your mind that your mind is inventing entirely, and sensations in the body. And you can start to ask it questions. If you notice, okay, it's in my belly, right? It's this tightness in my belly. You could put your attention there and ask it, is there anything you want to tell me? If you had a voice, what would you say? What are you protecting me from? What are you afraid is going to happen? What's the worst that will happen if my family come to stay this weekend? These kinds of questions help you get more to the root of what's actually going on. Like it might then tell you, as you put your attention there and stay quite open and ask these questions, it might get, words, if you ask it, what do you want to say? It might say, help, or I'm alone, or what do you think the worst is going to happen? Or mum's going to yell at me. And that's an echo of those times your mum might have, got angry at you as a child, right? And it's trying to protect you by projecting that into the future. Like, this is going to happen. Be careful, be careful, be careful. Beware, beware, beware. And this whole thing is a signal to try to stop that from happening. There are all kinds of questions you could ask. So just be creative. The third one, once you've kind of got a sense of it, is to track the somatic energy. So say there's a sense, okay, mum's going to yell at me, is that answer you got. You might then really start to step into this anxiety, really experience it. This is what we want to do in this third step. Really experience the anxiety. Let that part of you be anxious about mum yelling at you, if that is what it is afraid of. And just insert there whatever this anxiety is actually afraid of, or whatever you've learned about it, by getting curious about it and asking it questions. And really let it be anxious. Oh, mum's going to yell at me. I'm afraid mum's going to yell at me. And you might feel into how that anxiety wants to move. Maybe it wants to tighten in the chest and grip. Maybe it wants to kind of flutter or shake a little bit. Maybe it wants to kind of tense and contract in waves, sort of contract and expand in waves. The key is to let that anxious part of you fully be anxious, because normally we kind of resist it. We're kind of anxious, but we're not really letting it flow. We're not really fully allowing ourselves to be anxious. And that's the key. You want to really fully let this part of you fully be itself, That's when it starts to relax and process and move through. So you want to actually, paradoxically, really let yourself be anxious. This is the key difference here. People try and fix anxiety by not being anxious and relaxing, and instead you have to amplify it, if anything, merge with it, become the anxiety so fully you feel it in its entirety. So that's the third step. It's also helpful here to look at places, where am I resisting this anxiety? Maybe there's a part of you that's trying to justify why you shouldn't be anxious. That's the part that's resisting. Maybe you feel yourself pushing it away in some way, trying to distract yourself. And I have lots of videos on how to work with resistance to different emotions and feelings. So type resistance into my channel and you can find those, and they're very in depth. The fourth step, if you're really allowing that anxiety to say contract and be tight, you should find there's a little bit of space. If you're really allowing it, it'll come in waves. It'll like tense, then it might relax a little bit. Then there's an opportunity to drop in and feel what's underneath it, because that's the root, the emotional root of the anxiety is whatever's underneath it. Maybe it's that wound of loneliness or abandonment. Maybe it's, fear. Maybe it's anger or helplessness. It could well be a combination of all of them. Sometimes we feel at the root, we feel really helpless and abandoned. And then there's a layer of anger on top of that came in to protect against that wound of helplessness, to try and help to take control. But that was unsafe and we couldn't allow that. So the anxiety comes over the top and protects us from the anger. Do you see? And so when we really allow that anxiety and we experience that, like, no, then there's space. Maybe the anger starts to come up and we feel angry at mum or dad. It's like, hey, listen to me. How dare you? I can't, it's not fair. Pay attention to me. You can feel that anger. Then maybe as you allow the anger, fully letting that part be felt and allowed, then maybe the helplessness starts to be experienced. That anger will transmute into the helplessness. And if you can find the space to allow even a little bit of that helplessness, bit by bit, it could be quite overwhelming. So make sure you just go slow and make sure you're not exceeding your capacity, going deeper than you're able to handle. But the more you can feel into that helplessness, the less anxious you will be. This is where the work is done. You're really processing, feeling, meeting fully the emotional roots of the anxiety, right? There are some questions you can ask yourself here to discern this. If it's a bit unclear, if I didn't have this anxiety, what would I have to feel? Like if I wasn't anxious about mum being angry at me, what would I have to feel? Maybe I would actually get really angry at her. If I wasn't anxious about it, maybe I would just... And I'm just scared that I would get so angry at her, she'd never speak to me again. And I'm not suggesting you have to get angry at anyone, but I'm suggesting you have to allow that experience of anger and that emotion of anger within yourself. So I'm never saying there's a difference between feeling an emotion and acting out an emotion. Acting out is when you're yelling at someone and causing harm. When you're feeling an emotion, it's just you and the emotion, right? So remember that, it's very important. You can also just ask the anxiety what's underneath it. Are you angry? Are you afraid? Are you ashamed? Are you scared? Are you hurt? Are you sad? Are you lonely? You can just almost just try different things out, and you'll feel that something starts to resonate. It's like, are you lonely? You just go, oh yeah. You'll feel that tenderness inside you, or a sudden twist or contraction that's like the body responding to you finding that right word. That's sort of the core of it. Then you want to, at the end, give yourself some space to resource again and integrate. So after you've felt some of the anxiety, let it contract. You felt some of that anger, let it move through. And then you've got to the helplessness and you've cried some tears of helplessness. Then you want to give yourself some space to integrate, coming back to your resource, to your safe place, to your safe position, your holding. Give yourself that which you didn't get when you were younger. That sense of being held, being loved, being accepted. If you go through those steps, or something similar to that, each time you notice you're anxious, I promise you'll notice your anxiety reduce in chunks. You'll feel chunks of it start to fall away. And then your mind won't have to get so worried about things, because it only projects, oh, my boss is going to be mad, my mum's going to get angry, I'm going to fail at that job interview. It projects those and it makes it feel real, all just to protect you. And I promise you that if you work through the underlying emotional pain, those mental projections, those images you have in your mind, they won't feel real anymore. It'll be like a joke. You'll be amazed that you ever took them seriously. And with each chunk you integrate of the pain that's underneath it, that's a permanent shift in your sense of anxiety. And this is how you really, really get to the root and address it there. So I do help people one-on-one, offering somatic therapy to help them feel their feelings, work through layers of resistance, safely, compassionately, meeting these unmet emotional needs from childhood so we can be more free and authentic. And so just reach out to me via the links in the description if you want some support for that. I also have many other videos that go into a lot more detail on how to feel your feelings, how to work with resistance, how to resource yourself, and all that good stuff. So you can check those out too.